Kathy, what a blessing they have been. Pastor Cosby, for clergy who share the rostrum with me, to this fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, who Gary loves so much, to all who have come to worship with us in the celebration of this time, and most especially and pointedly to this family who is left behind to survive. Gary, thank you. Richard Abernathy. Most that needs to be said has been said, that's true. So I don't need to say a lot right now. Gary is one of the roots of this church. And as an old pastor, Pastor Emeritus, as I watch the Lord take home more and more of the roots of Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, I appreciate more and more how precious they were to us. Gary Abernathy was like that. He was one of the persons who was responsible for this building. Most folks wouldn't know that. Gary joined our church and very quickly gravitated toward its leadership. He became part of Wheeler's trustee board at a time the nation was moving into the recession of 1982. And that trustee board faced the challenge of trying to replace a little green wooden building with a permanent sanctuary. And Gary Abernathy was on the trustee board. All of us knew that we were facing recession. All of us knew that economic bad times were there with us, and that probably we ought not to attempt that at this time. But as has already been intimated here, Gary was one who said, we can do it. And he pushed us. And in 1986, we came into this building, thanks at least in part to dreamers like Gary Abernathy. Most of us knew Gary and didn't know Gary. He was the person, big, loud, dapper, elegant. We saw him moving among us all the time, and yet really didn't know much about him. Haven't you heard more about him today than you've heard before? And yet all of us, in his or her own way, had some contact with him and appreciated him for one thing or another. When I told Audrey that Gary had died, she couldn't place him. And we looked for his picture in one of the church pictorial directories. Couldn't find one there. So I said, when you see him, you'll know him. And of course, surely enough, when she got in here, she knew instantly who he was. There were a lot of people who knew him as that big, well-dressed, how you say it, tall, good-looking Texan. There were a lot of people who knew him but really didn't know much about him. I guess what I would say today is that he was a person who didn't have a title but made an impact. That's basically what he was. He was not Dr. Abernathy, could have been. Wasn't President or CEO Abernathy, could have been. For many people, he wasn't even Mr. Abernathy, he was just Gary. He was always just Gary. But despite the lack of a title, he very definitely made an impact. If you didn't know it before today, you know it now. He made an impact in the lives of a lot of people. And I appreciate him as somebody who did make an impact. He's like somebody else who didn't have a title but who made an impact. If I were to ask you right now to name Jesus' disciples, as prominent as they are in the history of our faith, most of you couldn't do too well. You would certainly be able to name Peter. Everybody knows Peter. If you push If you push yourself a little bit harder, you could name James and John. Oh, there was the traitor, Judas. We could remember them. But if you tried to go much further beyond that, most of us would frankly have to take the fifth. Do you know that one of the most important of Jesus' disciples didn't have a first place, high visibility, but made a very definite impact? As a matter of fact, he was the first of Jesus' disciples. Would you believe that? His name was Andrew. When John the Baptist had preached about Jesus, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world, there were two of John's disciples looking at this man who was supposed to be the one who takes away the sins of the world, and they followed him, these two disciples. One was named Andrew. The other disciple is not named. Pastor, that almost certainly was John. All of us know the way John operated. He always called himself that other disciple. But these two disciples followed Jesus, and one of them was Andrew. And they asked Jesus, where are you staying? Jesus told them. So they went with him and spent the night with him. And after they spent the night with him, Andrew was convinced that John the Baptist was right, that this was the Son of God which taketh away the sin of the world, and he needed to go and get somebody and bring him to Jesus. So he went and found his brother Simon and brought Simon to Jesus. A very important step. Andrew brought his brother to Jesus, and we remember Peter and don't remember Andrew. That was Andrew in a number of cases. I don't know how many of us remember Gary as a leader in pharmacy in Houston. I'm not sure how many of us remember Gary as a leader in city government in Houston. We certainly are bound to remember Gary as a leader in Alpha Phi Alpha. See all these fellows here in all this black and gold. Both of Gary's pastors are Alphas. That's why Dr. Cobb and I were in all this black and gold. This is Wheeler's 50th anniversary. And if Pastor Cosby should tell you that it is pure coincidence that the theme colors are black and gold, just humor it. But Gary was a leader in so many areas, and yet is recognized as a leader too seldom. In the 12th chapter of John, Jesus was moving toward crucifixion. He had ministered to the Jewish community, but there were some Greeks, some Gentiles, who said, we would like to meet Jesus. And so they came to the disciple who had a Greek name, Philip. And they told Philip, we would like to see Jesus. And Philip wasn't going to take a chance on going directly to Jesus to ask him to give an appointment to Gentiles, so Philip went to Andrew and said, Andrew, we got some Greeks who want to see Jesus. Now, he's not sent to minister to people outside the Jewish community. But Philip and Andrew brought these Greeks to see Jesus. And it was on that occasion that Jesus said, now is the time for the Son of Man to be glorified. The Gentile world wants to come. And guess how they got there? Andrew brought them. In the 6th chapter of John, are you listening to me? Yeah. In the 6th chapter of John, the whole crowd of people had followed Jesus, and he had preached all day long. And at the end of the day, the crowd was hungry. It was a huge crowd. We remember them as 5,000. Matthew chapter 14 says there were 5,000 men besides women and children. There may have been 12,000. But all this crowd of people was hungry, with nothing to eat. And Jesus said, where can we buy food to feed these people? And one of his disciples said, Master, if we had 200 penny worth of bread, that wouldn't be enough for each one of them to have a bite. 200 penny worth, $18,000, 8 months' salary. If we had that much food, that wouldn't be enough for each one of them to get a bite. And then somebody came up bringing a little boy. Guess who it was? Andrew. Had a little boy and said, Master, there's a lad here who has 5 loaves and 2 fishes, but what are you going to do with that? But it was that 5 loaves and 2 fishes with which Jesus fed the multitude, because Andrew, who had brought Peter, who had brought the Greeks, now brings the little boy. That was Andrew's primary role. He brought people. If you had been here earlier, you would have heard in the Alpha Omega ceremony, Deacon Tophus Anderson telling us how he got to Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. Tophus is right now the chairman of our board of deacons, and right next to Pastor Cosby, the most powerful man in this church. And he got here because of Gary, who didn't have a title, and who was not a deacon, who was not a minister, but who had an impact. So as you look at this building, as you look at Tophus Anderson, as you look at the number of people whose lives have been impacted by Gary Abernathy, you understand how blessed we are that God sent him into our lives for such a time as this. Family, we have a lot to be thankful for. I don't ever see Helen Abernathy sitting out there. I see her here all the time, but not there. She's out there directing the funeral. But now she's here, as one perhaps separated from him legally, but still bound to him by love. Somebody who still has a great deal of feeling for Gary and for these children. I'm going to say something that I almost never say in a funeral. Just before this casket was closed, Pastor Cosby asked if there was anybody who had not gotten a chance to view the body. And there was one man who came down to view the body. The funeral directors were just about to close the casket. Pastor Cosby said, don't close it yet. There's one person who hasn't seen it. So that one person came by and looked. Karen, I hope that you were happy with your dad's body. I've seen hundreds of bodies in hundreds of caskets over many years. Very seldom do I see a body well preserved. Now, Gary's not in that body. All of us know that. He's not in that box. But I do want to express appreciation, as I never do in a funeral. I do from time to time to funeral directors. But Helen, you and Ricky and that team did an incredible job of making Gary look good. A little bit of crying, ladies, but just a little bit. As soon as possible, get beyond the moment of bereavement and get toward the time that you can thank God for a man who was like Gary, a man who was outgoing, a man who was ebullient, a man who loved people, a man who excelled at anything he put his hand to, a man who made a difference, but a man who loved God. Yes, he partied. I'm not going to say he didn't party. But on Sunday morning, he didn't sleep in. He was up, and Karen and Gary were at church, whether they wanted to be or not, because Gary was a church man. He loved his church. And it doesn't surprise me that when he moved to Tyler, he got to Greater Seminary under the pastorate of a man who grew up in this church, Reverend Michael Mast. Gary was going to remain in church no matter how late he may have stayed awake playing cards. He was going to be in church praising God. That was Gary. A multidimensional man who had a multifaceted life. And in that multifaceted life, whether you knew him, whether you appreciated him, whether you recognized him or not, if you had to go and look at a church pictorial directory to find out who he was, the fact is, he made an impact. And that impact that he made was because he was one of Jesus' followers. And so where he was, pharmacy, hotel, city government, solid waste, wherever, Gary was going to make an impact for Jesus Christ. And I thank God that I got a chance to know Gary Abernathy, and that while I was here, he was a part of this church. Little, poor, weak, not very popular among sister churches in Houston, but nonetheless a church that Gary helped to build. So praise God for him, and quiet just a little while, and then just as soon as possible, thank God that he gave you a daddy, a brother, a kinsman, here in the church.